Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to the Species Canine podcast. I'm Jared, your host. And today I wanted to go over and discuss why having a very simple and short command structure is the best way to communicate with your dog. Stay tuned. Okay, so we have clients that come in, I'm working with them, and the amount of, I'm going to use the word minutia, that comes out trying to get the dog to do a come command is astonishing to me. They'll say, come, and then they'll do like 3 kisses, and they'll do a snap, and they do all this stuff, and the dog might respond, it might not, we don't know. And when they do, I always ask the client, what did the dog respond to? And they kind of look at me kind of funny and quizzical. And also, well, you wanted the dog to come, and you just said the word come, and they didn't respond to that. And then you gave 3 kisses and a clap and a snap, and the dog finally got over to you, and it wasn't like a very precise recall. Like, out of all of that, what did the dog respond to? And they have no idea. So this is why, if you look at it from a true ABA, applied behavioral analysis standpoint, and a true operant conditioning standpoint, it's very simple. We want to cut out all of that minutia and just focus on saying the dog's name. That's the cue. Now, I've discussed this before. I don't want my dog to look at me. I don't care if they look at me. I know they heard me. Okay? Dogs hear 4 times better than humans. So I know the dog heard me. So I'm not going to keep saying their name in anticipation of them looking over their shoulder and looking at me or saying what or some type of acknowledgement. They're not going to. They're going to be sniffing the ground. They heard their name. What's next, right? So when you teach the dog that the very next thing, the only thing that's going to come after hearing their name is a command, they learn to respond so much better. Now, we say, come. Now, if the dog is early off in training, they don't understand what the word means. We're not just going to keep saying come, come, come. There's a thing called command dilution. What's going to happen is the dog learns, I don't have to respond on come. I can respond on the 7th time before my owner, my handler is really serious about me actually coming to them. So when we first teach them this, we say, Fluffy, come, and they don't respond. Then we lure and prompt. We show them something they want. It's a high value reward. And as they're coming towards us and they get to the spot for the come command, which is for me is middle of me and center, and they're looking and working in my general direction. They get there, we mark it, good boy, good girl, and then they get the treat. And they quickly learn. That's what come means. I turn around and I walk towards my handler and I get to this spot and they say, good boy or good girl, and I get a reward. And we could fade off that prompt. And we do that for all of the commands, right? But in the course of doing that, I'm not adding in comes and clicks and snaps and kisses and all this other minutia, because you got to remember, those are all stimuluses. That's all stuff the dog has to process while trying to learn and understand what the expectation is, what you're teaching them to do. So if you're doing all those things, this is too much for the dog to process. And most of the time they just give up. They just, I know what you want. It's just too much. I'm going to go do what I want. I'm going to go sniff the ground, start seeing avoidance behaviors or something like that, right? So we want to make sure we're very clear and precise. And when you start being very clear with your dog in turn will have much better understanding of what you're being asked of them, and getting much more confident in that relationship and communication between you and the dog. So they learn name. Next thing is going to be a command. I know what to do. They do it. We mark it, we reward it, and we go through that whole process. This is so important, and it's missed by so many trainers, because I get clients coming all the time that have worked with the trainers or failed with the trainers or whatever it may be, and they'll start doing all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa. Like, what do you do? Like, I can't even follow what you're asking this dog to do. Like, stop. Like, just give them the command and then wait a second. And if they need it, help them. But it's so fast, kisses and claps and snaps and points and this and that. And the dogs are confused. I'm confused. The owner doesn't know what they're doing. So we've got to eliminate all that minutia, get rid of all of it, get all that static out of the way, and have a very clear communication with our dog. And when we start doing that, you see a much happier a much more confident dog because they know exactly what's being asked of them. They know exactly how to perform it, and they know they're going to get some type of reward or affection, or at least a good boy or good girl once they complete the behavior. Now, we're not talking about luring and prompting. I have plenty of videos and things like that. We're just talking about the reason behind having a clear and articulate command structure for our dog and the importance of this. Because I really feel this is something that's missing so much in the dog training community. And the dog needs to understand what's happening once they hear their name. And starting with the dog's name is so important that they know that their word is followed. I see videos where, the dogs are responding just to the commands and things like that. Okay, that's great, but just setting your dog up for failure and for confusion if they should hear one of those words in context to something else unrelated to them and they respond. And one of the examples I always use for clients is fast forward, you're in third phase, doorbell rings, oh, the pizza's here. You put your dog in a place command, they run over in place, good boy. You open the door, you're like, oh, hey, thanks, I didn't order this. And the pizza guy says, oh, don't worry about it, it's free. And the dog runs out the door because they heard the word free. But that's their word. They understand that word. But if you teach the dog name first and then the word free, that word doesn't associate with them because they didn't hear their name first. Or you have two dogs. How's that work? Now, I have Fluffy and Rover, and I say, Rover, down, Fluffy, sit, good boy, good girl. I can now communicate with two different dogs on two different levels and give two different commands because they know that word wasn't me. That name was not me. So the next command did not apply to me and vice versa. But now you can also train both dogs under one name. So I had a client that trained both their dogs, and then they wanted one name for both dogs. So they used the word fellas because it's both two male dogs. So it says fellas come, and they both come, right? And, one learned the left-hand heel, one learned the right-hand heel, so they could say fellas heel, and the dogs would go to heel command. Really cool. But they understood their own individual names. So that's the importance of that. And that's why I think so many people are missing out on that and start getting frustrated and learn, bad things because they just don't understand the science behind it. And that's, one of the reasons I'm here is I want to teach the science behind operant conditioning and classical conditioning and applied behavioral analysis so you can have a much better understanding and a much closer relationship with your dog and build that confidence. Because when you have that clear communication with your dog's going to have much more confidence in the commands and following and obeying. We see this even with the free command, where clients and people are not freeing the dog and really rewarding them for that. Because technically, Fluffy free is a command. Now, I would never use any type of corrections or, if the dog didn't break. So if the dog's in a place command and they're comfortable hanging out and you say Fluffy free and they just lay there, that's okay. But are they laying there because they're fearful of getting a correction and they don't understand the word free, that they're truly free to leave that and move around and do something else? And I see that when clients are not rewarding the free enough and really encouraging the dog to move and giving them that high value reward as if they were doing a sit or a down. So that breaks that confidence level in the dog, and they're very leery about moving. We never want that. Never want my dog walking on eggshells. We want them to be very confident and throughout the training process and just in general once the commands are generalized and we're actually in a real environment. So really think about that in your training when you're working with your dogs. What am I communicating? How am I communicating? And am I communicating the right thing? Am I potentially teaching the dog something that I didn't? And am I teaching the dog how to respond to or perform a command based off of something other than the command name or word, right? Am I saying sit and doing this? I had a girl call me a couple days ago and she's like, hey, I want to do protection training with my dog. I was like, all right, great, perfect. And she's like, I see on your site, they have to go through all your training. I said, yeah, absolutely. You got to have full off-leash obedience to your dog. You have to be able to control your dog in a very high stimulus environment before I'll do that with you. It's just unethical. It's unsafe. You need to build that. She said, oh, I completely understand. My dog can do all these things. I'm like, great. Let's just come on in. Let's just skip over the consultation. Just come on in. We'll spend 30 minutes together. And first thing, it's complete body language, moving her hand, doing all this crazy stuff and clicks and clucks. And as soon as I grabbed a squeaky toy and squeaked it, the dog was immediately interested in that and could care less about her handler. And so I was like, I just want to, show you a point So do the sit without saying sit. And she goes, and the dog pops right up. And I said, do the down without saying down. And she was nodding. She kept bending over and she just dropped over and the dog just dropped. And I was like, your dog doesn't know what these commands mean because you can't cross your arms and look at the sky and say sit or down. And the dog just looks at you like you're crazy because they're reading the body language first before actually understanding the command. So we're going to be cleaning up that and getting that fixed for and fading out those prompts and get the dog off of being prompt dependent. But we need to make sure that we have that clear communication and true obedience through the communication structure that we want. Now, if you want to do all that and have hand signals and do those things with your dog, God bless you. So your dog, you want to train them that way, but I want my dog to be able to respond to me without being able to see me. And that's the true level of obedience where you can be out of the room, do sits, downs, and places and comes and all that where your dog can't see you. And that's what I call, impressive when I started seeing those things. And there's no body language involved with the dog reading that. So hopefully, this helps with your training. Drop me a comment below. Let me know, like, if you're doing hand signals or not even doing it. A lot of people don't even realize they're doing these things. So I tell clients, film yourself and watch your body language. Watch how much movement you're doing before you give the command or before the dog does the command. See what they're doing. What is the dog really picking up on? What stimulus to perform the command that you're expecting them to do? Drop me a comment. Let me know what works for you. If you're happy with your dog just doing commands based off of the command and not following a name first, things like that, by all means, whatever works. But this is the way I do it, and I have reasons why I do it that way. And my reasons are very justified. I want my dog to respond because they heard their name first, and they understand that word is part of their vocabulary, and then follows a command, only follows a command, and never repeat the dog's name. Once I say the dog's name, followed by the command. Very simple. Applied behavioral analysis, ABC, antecedent behavior consequence, was good for the whole process there. So hopefully this helps. It hopefully cleans up your command structure, helps you start communicating better with your dog, build that bond of trust, build a better communication so you have a more confident handler and a more confident dog. And as always, train smart.